Hello, my name is Raya Sarkar, and I created a list of alleged sexual harassers in academia in 2017 because many students, especially marginalized students, do not have the access to whisper networks that warn students and help them navigate through academia safely. I was outraged at how Christine C. Fair's allegations against academics were taken down from Huffington Post. It included an allegation against a South Asian academic. And I was aware how prevalent sexual harassment was in Indian universities, as I was a law student in New Delhi myself. As the Me Too movement kicked off in the US, I wanted to provide students in India with the same closure that, you know, as survivors in the Me Too movement were experiencing, but it happened anonymously because the survivors did not want to sacrifice their careers just to make allegations because they were all afraid of the risk of retribution. And this risk of retribution drives many students into silence, which is why I thought that, okay, we'll do this anonymously. I wanted to create a tool that would be accessible to everybody through social media and would help most vulnerable students to navigate through academia and their universities. I made a status on Facebook asking survivors to come forward. And once survivors did come forward, I interviewed them. I took down their testimonies. I interviewed witnesses, scrutinized their emails, texts, video recordings, and anything that further validated their testimonies. And only then I added names to the list. I closely followed the definition of sexual harassment in Indian laws and also through different judgments made by the Supreme Court uh, to make sure that there were no frivolous claims, uh, involved in the list. I had to research thoroughly because I didn't want to be in a situation where I was facing lawsuits and I couldn't defend my case. And also because people had the right to have the most accurate information and the most like solid, thorough information. I understand why many did not trust the list because, first of all, they did not know me, and then why would they trust my judgment, right? I think the Me Too movement is pillared on just on faith, and the survivors who approached me took a leap of faith to confide in me, and also the people who were believing the list and who were validating the list also took a leap of faith to believe survivors and fostering uh, an environment where survivors are believed and not labeled as liars. The list was called vigilante justice, but I disagree with that term because in India we have the right to make allegations, and simply making an allegation doesn't mean does not equate a guilty verdict in a court of law because I don't have the power to incarcerate anybody, and also because I'm not lynching anybody, and that is a grossly inappropriate like comparison because the people who lynch are the people in power, unlike students who do not have the power in this equation. uh, I was saddened to learn that eminent feminists and scholars had signed a petition on kafila condemning the list where they asked me to take it down. I didn't expect it. One would expect feminists to take allegations seriously and call for institutional investigations instead of asking, the survivors to take their allegations down and to like police how they want to deal with their trauma. It was shocking and unexpected, and it was quite I mean, it disappointed many. Um, there was a lot of gatekeeping about who is a feminist and who gets to be a feminist and who doesn't. I don't think feminism is an exclusionary movement. I don't think only a few people have the right to be feminist. I think everybody has the right to call themselves feminist and to kind of own the movement. Um, I was expecting people to call for institutional investigations, but none of that happened, and no university approached me as a part of their investigation. No university launched investigations. But as the months passed, several survivors lodged formal complaints with universities, and four men out of the list who were named in the list uh, were investigated after formal complaints were filed. And out of those, one professor left the university and three others were held guilty. Out of the three, two of them are still teaching despite guilty verdicts. And, you know, that is evidence to us that, institutional processes are just an eyewash, and that, due process is least concerned with the survivor's safety, a student's safety, and it's mostly just a damage control method. And it kind of reflects the impunity with which alleged perpetrators, uh, navigate through their workplace. And the process appeared to be rigged to benefit the professors despite guilty verdicts. And these kind of decisions discourage students to report even more. I strongly believe that the institutional framework is inherently unequal and favors perpetrators and disadvantages students, especially from marginalized communities. And my possible solution is to adopt non institutional procedures that function independently and are more survivor centric, that offer reparations to students, that offer support systems to students and safety nets, and offer facilitate psychological counseling, and basically helps students heal and helps survivors heal from whatever abuse that they have experienced. And also, we must also publicly condemn enablers who allow this abuse to continue. I think it takes a village of enablers to raise a perpetrator, and enablers must face flack for allowing abuse to continue, and they should be held accountable. I think the accountability process needs to be more independent and more resistant to influence, so that the equation between the complainant and the accused is reduced. And I think that the most vulnerable students, who are from Dalit and Adivasi and Bahujan backgrounds, need to be held at the core of any kind of reform or any kind of redressal system. Their needs should be the most vulnerable, and their needs should be prioritized. And we need to provide social safety nets and support systems, and also financial help to students to continue studying in these institutions. And what I have realized is that the reason why students don't complain is because abuse is perpetrated through an inequality, unequal power equations, and we must address this equation and try to reduce this inequality by providing more resources and more legal help and more psychological counseling and more tools for survivors to cope with their lives and to move on with their lives. Thank you.